The Xorillian homeworld, Xyloth, had long been a bastion of technological might and military supremacy, its cities gleaming with towering spires and advanced infrastructure. But now, dark clouds of smoke billowed from the horizon, signaling the arrival of a menace unlike any the Xorillians had faced before. Deep within the fortified Imperial Palace, the Xorillian High Command convened in a tense and hurried session. Sarith, the aged Grand Imperator, stood at the head of the circular chamber, his weathered countenance betraying the gravity of the situation. "This enemy," he said, his voice ragged with exhaustion, "has swept aside our finest fleets with ease. Our most advanced weaponry is powerless against their onslaught." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his advisors. "We are facing the end of our civilization as we know it." A murmur of dismay rippled through the chamber. The Xorillians had conquered countless worlds, their military might unmatched in the known galaxy. The idea that they could be brought to the brink of annihilation was almost unthinkable. Sarith raised a hand, commanding silence. "There is, however, a glimmer of hope. A report has reached us from our scouts. A species known as humans inhabits a small distant planet called Earth. They are primitive, to be sure, but possess a resilience and ingenuity that may prove valuable." One of the Imperator's advisors, a shrewd-eyed strategist named Zelfar, spoke up. "Humans? You would have us seek aid from such a backward race. They are no match for the might of the Xorillian Empire." Sarith fixed Zalfar with a stern gaze. "I understand your skepticism, but desperate times call for desperate measures. We have exhausted every other option. If we are to survive, we must put aside our pride and reach out to these humans." The debate that followed was heated and divisive. Some of the Imperator's advisors echoed Zalfar's disdain for the prospect of allying with an inferior species, while others, swayed by the grim reality of their situation, reluctantly agreed that it was their only remaining choice. After hours of argument, Sarith raised his hand, silencing the room. "It is decided, then. We will send a message to this planet, Earth, and plead for their assistance. May the ancestors forgive us for this humiliation." The Imperator turned to his most trusted commander, a seasoned warrior named Celerath. "Assemble the best of our remaining forces. Prepare them to receive the humans, should they answer our call." Celerath bowed deeply. "It will be done, Imperator. We will not go gentle into the night." He paused, a spark of determination kindling in his eyes. "The Xorillian Empire will not fall, not while there is still breath in our bodies." As the meeting adjourned, a palpable sense of unease hung in the air. The Xorillians had never faced such a formidable foe, and the prospect of having to rely on the aid of an alien race they considered inferior was a bitter pill to swallow. But with their very existence at stake, they had no choice but to take the leap into the unknown. On the other side of the galaxy, the message from the Xorillian Empire reached the leaders of the newly formed Terran Federation, setting in motion a series of events that would forever alter the course of two civilizations. President Olivia Sinclair, a seasoned diplomat with a keen strategic mind, convened an emergency session of the Federation Council to discuss the Xorillians' desperate plea. The room was thick with tension as the council members debated the merits and risks of intervening in an alien conflict. "This could be a trap," warned one of the more cautious counselors. "The Xorillians have long been our sworn enemies. How can we trust that they are not simply trying to lure us into a vulnerable position?" Sinclair raised a hand, silencing the room. "I understand your concerns, but we cannot ignore the gravity of the situation. If the Xorillian Empire falls, it could have dire consequences for the entire galaxy. We have the opportunity to not only forge a powerful alliance, but also to demonstrate the strength and capabilities of the Terran Federation." Another counselor, a young and idealistic representative named Aisha Khalid, spoke up passionately. "This is a chance for us to show the galaxy the true spirit of humanity. Our compassion, our ingenuity, our unwavering determination. If we turn our backs on the Xorillians now, we may forever be seen as a selfish and callous species, unworthy of the stars." Sinclair nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Aisha makes a compelling point. We have the power to change the course of history, to prove that humanity is more than just a backwater civilization. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "I say we answer the Xorilians' plea. We will send our most advanced warship, the UES Endeavor, to assess the situation and offer our assistance." The council erupted in a flurry of debate, but Sinclair's resolve was unshakable. She knew that this was a pivotal moment in the young history of the Terran Federation, a chance to assert their place in the galactic community and forge a new destiny for humanity. As the meeting adjourned, Sinclair turned to her trusted advisor, General Mikhail Volkov. "Assemble the Endeavor's crew. It's time to show the galaxy what we're made of." The Xorilian High Command awaited the Terran Federation's response with bated breath. The fate of their civilization hung in the balance, and they could only hope that the humans would see fit to answer their desperate plea for aid. Days turned into weeks as the Xorilians struggled to hold back the relentless advance of their ancient enemy. The once formidable Xorilian military was being whittled down, their superior technology and numbers slowly overwhelmed by the sheer destructive power of the invading forces. Zareth paced the command center, his weathered features etched with worry. "Any word from the scouts?" he asked, his voice betraying a rare hint of uncertainty. Zalfar, the ever-skeptical strategist, stepped forward. "Nothing yet, Imperator. The message was transmitted weeks ago, but we have received no response from the humans." The Imperator's brow furrowed. "They cannot ignore our plea. Surely they understand the gravity of our situation." Zalfar cleared his throat, his expression grim. "Perhaps they have, Imperator. Or perhaps they simply do not care." Sardath turned to face his advisor, his eyes narrowing. "Do not give voice to such defeatist thoughts, Zalfar. The humans may be primitive, but they have demonstrated a resilience that should not be underestimated." Before Zalfar could respond, a young lieutenant rushed into the command center, his face flushed with excitement. "Imperator, we've received a response from the Terran Federation." Zareth's heart leaped with cautious hope. "Well, don't keep us in suspense, young one. What did they say?" The lieutenant took a deep breath, his eyes shining. "They have agreed to send their most advanced warship, the UES Endeavor, to assess the situation and offer assistance." A murmur of relief and cautious optimism swept through the command center. Zareth raised a hand, silencing the chatter. "This is welcome news, but we must not let our guard down. The humans may still have ulterior motives. Zalfar, I want you to oversee the preparations for their arrival." Zalfar inclined his head, his expression unreadable. "As you wish, Imperator. I will ensure that our guests are treated with the utmost courtesy." As the Xorilian forces scrambled to ready themselves for the humans' arrival, the UES Endeavor rapidly traversed the vast expanse of intergalactic space, its sleek, angular hull cutting through the void like a razor-sharp blade. At the helm of the mighty vessel was Commander Alec Shepard, a decorated war hero with a reputation for bold and decisive action. His steel-gray eyes scanned the redouts on the bridge, his mind racing with the weight of the mission. "ETA to the Xorilian homeworld, Lieutenant," he asked, his voice calm and measured. The young officer at the navigation console checked her instruments, her brow furrowed in concentration. "2 standard days, sir. We're making excellent time." Shepard nodded, his gaze drifting towards the view screen, where the distant stars shimmered like scattered diamonds. "Good. We can't afford any delays. The fate of 2 civilizations may rest on our shoulders." A petite woman in the uniform of the Terran Science Corps approached Shepard, her expression one of cautious optimism. "Commander, I must admit, I'm somewhat nervous about this mission. The Xorilians have been our sworn enemies for centuries. How can we be sure they are not leading us into a trap?" Shepard turned to face the woman, his features softening slightly. "I understand your concern, Dr. Anderson," But we cannot afford to let our past grievances blind us to the present reality. If the Xorilian Empire falls, it could have dire consequences for the entire galaxy. Dr. Anderson nodded, her gaze thoughtful. You make a fair point, Commander. Still, I can't help but wonder what the Xorilians might expect in return for our assistance. Shepard's jaw tightened. That's a risk we'll have to be prepared to take. This mission is about more than just the Xorilian survival. It's about proving the strength and value of the Terran Federation to the galaxy at large. The scientist's eyes widened, a spark of understanding dawning in her expression. I see. This is a chance for us to make our mark, to show the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. Shepard smiled, a hint of pride in his voice. Exactly, Doctor. The Xorilians may have called upon us out of desperation, but we will answer their plea with the full might and determination of humanity. As the Endeavor hurtled towards its destination, the crew prepared themselves for the challenges that awaited them. They knew that the outcome of this mission could shape the course of history, and they were determined to rise to the occasion. The news of the Terran Federation's response to the Xorilians' desperate plea spread through the halls of power on Earth like wildfire. President Olivia Sinclair convened an emergency meeting of the Federation Council, her expression grave. Colleagues, the time has come for us to make a momentous decision. She began, her gaze sweeping across the faces of the assembled representatives. The Xorilian Empire, our sworn enemy for centuries, has reached out to us in their hour of need. They face annihilation at the hands of a powerful foe, and they have asked for our assistance. A murmur of disbelief and concern rippled through the council chamber. Sinclair raised a hand, silencing the uneasy chatter. I know this is a difficult and controversial decision, but we cannot ignore the gravity of the situation. If the Xorilian Empire falls, it could have dire consequences for the entire galaxy. This is a chance for the Terran Federation to assert our place on the galactic stage, to forge new alliances and demonstrate the true strength of humanity. Aisha Khalid, the young and idealistic counselor, rose to her feet, her eyes shining with resolve. President Sinclair is right. This is a pivotal moment for our species. If we turn our backs on the Xorilians now, we may forever be seen as a selfish and callous race, unworthy of the stars. An older, weathered counselor named Marcus Archer leaned forward, his brow furrowed in skepticism. But can we trust the Xorilians? They have been our sworn enemies for centuries. How can we be sure they are not leading us into a trap? Sinclair nodded, acknowledging the valid concern. That is a risk we will have to be prepared to take, Counselor Archer. But I believe the potential rewards far outweigh the risks. By offering the Xorilians our assistance, we have the opportunity to forge a powerful alliance and reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The debate that followed was heated and impassioned, with some counselors adamantly opposed to the idea of aiding the Xorilians, while others saw it as a chance for the Terran Federation to assert its dominance and expand its influence. After hours of intense discussion, Sinclair raised her hand, commanding silence. The decision has been made. We will send our most advanced warship, the UES Endeavor, to the Xorilian homeworld to assess the situation and offer our assistance. A hush fell over the council chamber, the gravity of the decision weighing heavily in the air. Sinclair met the gaze of each counselor, her expression resolute. This is a pivotal moment in the history of the Terran Federation. We have the chance to change the course of galactic events, to prove that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. I have the utmost confidence in the crew of the Endeavor, and in our ability to rise to this challenge. As the meeting adjourned, Sinclair turned to General Mikhail Volkov, her most trusted military advisor. Assemble the Endeavor's crew. Commander Shepard will lead this mission, and he will need the finest officers and crew we can provide. Volkov saluted sharply. It will be done, Madam President. I will personally oversee the selection process. In the days that followed, the UES Endeavor underwent a flurry of activity as its crew was assembled, and the ship was prepared for its critical mission. Commander Alex Shepard, a seasoned veteran with a distinguished career, pored over the intelligence reports, his mind racing with the implications of the task ahead. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Anderson, the Terran Science Corps representative assigned to the Endeavor, studied the data with a keen, analytical eye. "This is an unprecedented situation, Commander. The Xorilians have been our sworn enemies for centuries, and now we're being asked to aid them in their hour of need." Shepard nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I understand your reservations, Doctor. Believe me, I have my own concerns about the potential risks involved. But the fact remains that the fate of two civilizations may rest on the success of this mission." He turned to face her, his gaze steely and resolute. "We have a chance to make history, Dr. Anderson, to show the galaxy that the Terran Federation is a force to be reckoned with, and I intend to seize that opportunity with both hands." Dr. Anderson regarded him for a moment, a spark of admiration flickering in her eyes. "Then I'll be right there by your side, Commander. Whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together." As the Endeavor's engines roared to life, Shepard stood on the bridge, his jaw set with determination. "Set a course for the Xorilian homeworld," he commanded, his voice ringing with purpose. "It's time to see what the Terran Federation is made of." The massive warship surged forward, cutting through the inky blackness of space, its crew filled with a sense of purpose and the weight of history on their shoulders. The UES Endeavor emerged from the swirling vortex of a warp jump, the Xorilian homeworld Xyloth looming large in the view screen. Commander Alex Shepard stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the bridge crew. "All stop," he commanded, his voice calm and measured. "Begin standard hailing procedures. I want to establish contact with the Xorilian leadership as soon as possible." The communications officer, a young lieutenant named Olivia John, nodded sharply. "Aye, sir. Hailing frequencies open." She paused, her fingers flying across the console. "Connecting." After a tense moment, the view screen crackled to life, revealing the weathered face of the Xorilian Grand Imperator, Sarith. Shepard could see the exhaustion etched into the alien's features, a stark contrast to the proud, imposing figure he had seen in the intelligence reports. "I am Sarith, Imperator of the Xorilian Empire," the Xorilian leader began, his voice ragged with fatigue. "You have answered our call for aid. For that, we are grateful." Shepard inclined his head in a gesture of respect. "I am Commander Alex Shepard of the Terran Federation. We have come to assess the situation and offer whatever assistance we can." Sarith's brow furrowed, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "You must understand, Commander, that the Xorilian Empire and the Terran Federation have been sworn enemies for centuries. Our histories are stained with the blood of countless battles." Shepard nodded, his expression grave. "I am aware of our tumultuous past, Imperator. But these are desperate times, and we cannot afford to let old grievances blind us to the present reality." Dr. Sarah Anderson, who had been standing quietly beside Shepard, stepped forward. "Imperator, if I may," she began, her voice calm and measured. "Our mission here is not to judge the past, but to ensure the survival of both our civilizations. The threat you face is unlike anything we have encountered before. We believe that by pooling our resources and our knowledge, we may be able to turn the tide of this battle." Sarith regarded the human woman with a mixture of surprise and cautious respect. "Your words are intriguing, Doctor. But how can we be sure that you are not simply using our plight to further your own agenda?" Shepard moved to respond, but Dr. Anderson raised a hand, silencing him. "Imperator, we understand your skepticism, but I can assure you that the Terran Federation has no ulterior motives. We have come here to help, not to conquer or exploit. All we ask in return is that you grant us the opportunity to prove our worth." The Xorilian Imperator's gaze narrowed, his eyes searching the faces of the Terran officers. After a tense moment, he gave a slight nod. "Very well, Doctor. You and your commander shall be granted an audience with the Xorilian High Command. Come to the Imperial Palace, and we shall discuss this further." The view screen blinked out, leaving the bridge crew in a contemplative silence. Shepard turned to Dr. Anderson, a hint of respect in his eyes. "Well done, Doctor. I must admit, I was a bit concerned about how you would handle that delicate negotiation." Anderson smiled wryly. "I've had a lifetime of practice dealing with stubborn, distrustful individuals, Commander. Diplomacy is a valuable skill in my line of work." Shepard chuckled, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Indeed, and it may very well be the key to the success of this mission." He turned to the helm officer. "Set a course for the Imperial Palace. Let's not keep the Xorilians waiting." As the Endeavour glided through the skies of Sci-Fi, Shepard and Dr. Anderson prepared themselves for the momentous meeting with the Xorilian High Command. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and they knew that every word, every gesture, would be scrutinized with the utmost care. Upon their arrival at the imposing Imperial Palace, the Terran representatives were ushered into a grand, circular chamber where the Xorilian Imperator and his advisors were gathered. Sarith greeted them with a solemn nod, his expression guarded. "Welcome, Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson. We have much to discuss." He gestured to the assembled Xorilians. "This is the Xorilian High Command, the leaders of our empire. They are cautiously optimistic about your offer of assistance." Shepard stepped forward, his posture relaxed yet confident. "Imperator, we understand the weight of the decision that lies before us. The Terran Federation is prepared to commit the full might of our resources and expertise to aid the Xorilian Empire in this time of crisis." Zalfar, the skeptical Xorilian strategist, leaned forward, his gaze narrowed. "And what, pray tell, would the Terran Federation expect in return for such generosity?" Dr. Anderson answered before Shepard could respond. "The Terran Federation seeks only to forge a lasting alliance, Counselor Zalfar. We have no ulterior motives, no hidden agendas. Our sole desire is to ensure the survival of both our civilizations." Sarith raised a hand, silencing the murmurs of dissent that had begun to ripple through the chamber. "Then let us waste no more time. Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson, we welcome you to the Xorilian High Command. Together, we must devise a plan to vanquish this ancient foe and secure the future of our peoples." As the discussion began in earnest, Shepard and Dr. Anderson shared a meaningful glance, both of them keenly aware that the success of this mission would determine the course of history for generations to come. The air in the Xorilian High Command chamber was thick with tension as the Terran and Xorilian leaders pored over the intelligence reports, their brows furrowed in concentration. Commander Shepard traced a slender finger across the holographic display, his expression grave. "According to our scouts, this enemy force is unlike anything we've ever encountered. Their ships are colossal, their weaponry devastatingly powerful. Even your most advanced armada has been unable to make a dent in their defenses." Zalfar, the Xorilian strategist, nodded reluctantly. "The commander speaks the truth. Our fleets have been decimated, our strongholds razed. If we do not find a solution soon, the Xorilian Empire will fall." Zareth, the Imperator, fixed Shepard with a piercing gaze. "And what solution do you propose, Commander? How can the combined might of the Terran Federation and the Xorilian Empire hope to overcome this formidable foe?" Shepard exchanged a glance with Dr. Anderson, who had been quietly observing the proceedings. "Imperator, the key lies in our ability to leverage our respective strengths and technological expertise. With the Endeavor's advanced weaponry and the Xorilians' extensive knowledge of their enemy's tactics, we may be able to devise a strategy that gives us the edge we need." Dr. Anderson stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "Imperator, if I may." At Sarith's nod, she continued, "Our initial scans have revealed some interesting vulnerabilities in the enemy's defensive systems. If we can find a way to exploit those weaknesses, we may be able to break through their formidable defenses." Zalfar's eyes narrowed, a hint of skepticism in his voice. "And what makes you so certain, Doctor, that your Primitive technology can succeed where our own has failed. Dr. Anderson met the Xorilian's gaze unflinchingly. Because, Counselor, the Terran Federation has a long history of innovation and problem-solving. We may not have the same level of raw power as the Xorilians, but we have a knack for finding unconventional solutions to seemingly insurmountable challenges. Shepard placed a reassuring hand on Dr. Anderson's shoulder, his expression determined. The doctor is right. Together, we can find a way to turn the tide of this battle. All we need is time to study the enemy's tactics and work on a coordinated plan of attack. Xareth considered the Terran's words, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Time is a luxury we no longer possess, Commander. Our forces are stretched thin, and the enemy's advance shows no sign of slowing. If we do not act soon, all may be lost. Zalfar's gaze hardened, his voice laced with suspicion. Perhaps the humans are simply stalling, Imperator. Perhaps this is all part of a ploy to weaken the Xorilian Empire further, to pave the way for their own conquest. Shepard tensed, his jaw tightening. Counselor, I can assure you that the Terran Federation has no such intentions. We are here to help, not to conquer. Our people have faced adversity before, and we have always risen to the challenge. Give us a chance, and we will prove our worth. The chamber fell silent, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. Xareth fixed Shepard and Dr. Anderson with a piercing stare, his expression unreadable. Very well, Commander. We will grant you the time you need to devise a strategy. But know this, if you fail, the Xorilian Empire will fall, and the Terran Federation will share our fate. Shepard inclined his head, his eyes resolute. Understood, Imperator. We will not let you down. As the Xorilian High Command meeting adjourned, Shepard and Dr. Anderson walked side by side through the imposing halls of the Imperial Palace, their minds racing with the implications of their newfound alliance. That went better than I expected, Dr. Anderson murmured, her gaze thoughtful. Zalfar's distrust of the Terran Federation is clear, but Xareth seems willing to give us a chance. Shepard nodded, his expression grave. Yes, but we'll need to tread carefully. The Xorilians are a proud and powerful people, and any perceived betrayal could shatter this fragile alliance. Dr. Anderson placed a hand on Shepard's arm, her eyes shining with determination. Then we'll have to make sure we don't give them any reason to doubt us. We'll pour every ounce of our skill and ingenuity into this mission, Commander. Failure is not an option. Shepard smiled, a glimmer of hope in his gaze. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear, Doctor. Together, we'll find a way to turn the tide of this battle and forge a lasting peace between our civilizations. As they returned to the endeavor, the weight of their responsibility weighed heavily on their shoulders. But with the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance, they were more determined than ever to succeed. The Endeavor's bridge was a flurry of activity as Commander Shepard and Dr. Anderson pored over the latest intelligence reports, their brows furrowed in concentration. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and they knew that every decision they made could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. According to our latest scans, the enemy's primary weapon systems are powered by a series of massive plasma coils, Dr. Anderson explained, her fingers flying across the holographic display. If we can find a way to disrupt those coils, we may be able to cripple their offensive capabilities. Shepard nodded, his expression thoughtful. That's a good start, Doctor, but we'll need more than that to turn the tide of this battle. The Xorilian fleet is stretched thin, and their defenses are crumbling. We need a plan that will give them the edge they need to hold back the enemy's onslaught. The young lieutenant at the communications console cleared her throat, her voice hesitant. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Xorilian High Command. They say it's urgent. Shepard exchanged a glance with Dr. Anderson, then nodded. Put it through, Lieutenant. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Harith, the Xorilian Imperator. His expression was grave, and Shepard could see the exhaustion etched into his features. Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson, Our situation has become dire. The enemy's forces are closing in on our capital, and our fleets are struggling to hold them back. We need your help now." Shepard straightened, his jaw set with determination. "Imperator, we're already working on a plan to disrupt the enemy's primary weapon systems. With your permission, we'd like to coordinate a joint offensive to capitalize on the weaknesses we've identified." Xareth nodded, his relief palpable. "Time is of the essence, Commander. Our forces are being pushed to the brink. We will coordinate with your ship immediately and provide whatever support we can." The view screen blinked out, and Shepard turned to his crew, his expression grim. "All hands, battle stations. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Let's show the Xaurilians and the galaxy what the Terran Federation is made of." As the Endeavor and the battered Xaurilian fleet surged forward, the massive enemy ships loomed into view, their massive plasma coils pulsing with energy. Shepard gripped the arms of his command chair, his heart pounding in his chest. "All batteries, target those plasma coils. Dr. Anderson, is the disruption device ready?" Dr. Anderson nodded, her face set with determination. "It's ready, Commander. Just say the word." Shepard took a deep breath, then barked out his orders. "Fire the disruption device, full power. And tell the Xaurilian fleet to concentrate their fire on those weakened targets." The Endeavor's powerful weaponry lashed out, and the air crackled with energy as the disruption device unleashed a devastating electromagnetic pulse. The enemy ships shuddered, their plasma coils sputtering and dying, as the Xaurilian fleet unleashed a withering barrage of fire. For a moment, the battle seemed to hang in the balance, the two fleets trading blows with desperate ferocity. But then, the enemy's defenses began to crumble, their once formidable ships reduced to hulking, broken wrecks. Shepard watched the unfolding battle, his jaw clenched with tension. Come on," he muttered under his breath. As the last of the enemy ships were destroyed, a cheer went up from the Endeavor's bridge crew. Shepard allowed himself a small smile, then turned to Dr. Anderson. "Well done, Doctor. Your disruption device was the key to our victory." Dr. Anderson shook her head, a humble smile on her face. "It was a team effort, Commander. The Xaurilian fleet played a crucial role as well. Without their support, we may not have been able to pull this off." Xareth's face reappeared on the view screen, his expression one of triumph and relief. "Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson, you have proven yourselves worthy allies. The Xaurilian Empire is in your debt." Shepard inclined his head, his voice solemn. "Imperator, the battle is not over yet. We must press our advantage and drive the enemy from your homeworld." Xareth nodded, his gaze resolute. "Then let us finish this together. The Xaurilian High Command will coordinate our remaining forces for a final decisive strike." As the Endeavor and the Xaurilian fleet surged forward, Shepard and Dr. Anderson shared a glance, their eyes shining with determination. They knew that the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and they were more determined than ever to see this mission through to the end. The final decisive battle raged across the skies of Sci-Fi. The Endeavor and the Xaurilian fleet engaging the enemy with a ferocity born of desperation. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, and the rumble of exploding ships echoed across the planet's surface. Commander Shepard stood at the heart of the maelstrom, his gaze fixed on the tactical display as he barked out orders to his crew. "Target the enemy's flank. Lieutenant Jung, coordinate with the Xaurilian ships to launch a simultaneous strike." Beside him, Dr. Anderson monitored the readouts, her brow furrowed with concentration. "The disruption device is holding, but we're taking heavy fire. I don't know how much longer we can maintain this offensive." Shepard's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "We have to hold out, Doctor. The Xaurilian Empire is counting on us." The battle raged on, with both sides inflicting heavy casualties on the other. But as the Terran and Xaurilian forces pushed deeper into the enemy's defenses, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. Finally, with a tremendous explosion, the last of the enemy ships was destroyed. its hulking carcass crashing to the ground in a shower of debris. A cheer rose up from the Endeavor's bridge crew, but Shepard and Dr. Anderson remained somber, their gazes fixed on the Xorilian Imperator's face as it appeared on the view screen. Zareth's expression was one of equal parts relief and disbelief. "You have done it, Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson. You have saved the Xorilian Empire from certain annihilation." Shepard inclined his head, his voice grave. "Imperator, the battle is won, but at a great cost. Your forces have been devastated, and your homeworld lies in ruins. We stand ready to assist in the rebuilding efforts, but I must know, what price do you expect the Terran Federation to pay for our aid?" Zareth's brow furrowed, and for a moment, Shepard braced himself for the worst. But then, to his surprise, the Imperator's lips curled into a wry smile. "You speak of payment, Commander, as if we have any right to demand anything from you. It is we who owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Dr. Anderson's eyes widened, her expression one of disbelief. "Imperator, surely you must have some conditions, some expectations of us. After all, the Xorilian Empire and the Terran Federation have been sworn enemies for centuries." Zareth raised a hand, silencing her. "Doctor, you speak the truth. Our history is stained with the blood of countless battles, but today that history has been rewritten. You and your people have risked everything to save our civilization, and for that, we are forever grateful." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the Terran officers. "The Xorilian Empire is humbled, and we recognize the folly of our past actions. We would be honored to forge a new alliance with the Terran Federation, one built on mutual respect and understanding." Shepard felt a surge of pride swell in his chest, and he stepped forward, his hand extended. "Imperator, on behalf of the Terran Federation, we accept your offer of alliance. Together, we will rebuild, and together, we will forge a future of peace and prosperity for our peoples." Zareth clasped Shepard's hand, his eyes shining with a newfound respect. "Then it is done, Commander. The Xorilian Empire and the Terran Federation are now allies, bound by the shared experience of this battle and the promise of a brighter tomorrow." As the communication ended, Shepard turned to Dr. Anderson, a triumphant smile on his face. "We did it, Doctor. Against all odds, we forged a lasting alliance between our civilizations." Dr. Anderson returned his smile, her eyes shining with pride. "Yes, Commander, we have. And I must say, I'm rather impressed by your diplomatic skills. I had no idea you were such a skilled negotiator." Shepard chuckled, his gaze drifting towards the view screen, where the ruined remains of the enemy ships lay scattered across the Xorilian landscape. "I had a good teacher. And besides, I had the weight of two civilizations on my shoulders. Failure simply wasn't an option." Dr. Anderson placed a hand on his arm, her expression serious. "Well, you and your crew have certainly proven yourselves worthy allies. The Terran Federation should be proud." Shepard nodded, his expression sobering. "Yes, but the real work is just beginning. With the Xorilian Empire's defenses in ruins, we'll need to work closely with them to rebuild and fortify their homeworld. And who knows what other threats may be lurking in the depths of space, waiting to strike." He turned to his crew, his voice ringing with purpose. "But we'll be ready, all of us. The Terran Federation and the Xorilian Empire, standing together as guardians of the galaxy. That's a future worth fighting for." As the Endeavor prepared to depart, Shepard and Dr. Anderson shared one last look, both of them keenly aware that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in the history of their respective civilizations. As the UES Endeavor prepared to depart the Xorilian homeworld, Commander Alex Shepard and Dr. Sarah Anderson stood on the bridge, their gazes fixed on the devastated landscape below. The once proud cities of Xyloth were in ruins, their towering spires reduced to rubble by the ferocious battle that had raged across the planet. But even amidst the destruction, there was a sense of hope. a glimmer of determination that had been ignited by the Terran Federation's timely intervention. Zareth, the Xorilian Imperator, approached the two Terran representatives, his weathered features etched with a mixture of gratitude and respect. "Commander Shepard, Dr. Anderson," he began, his voice tempered with a newfound humility. "Words cannot express the depth of our gratitude for the sacrifices you and your crew have made to save the Xorilian Empire." Shepard inclined his head, his expression solemn. "Imperator, the Terran Federation is honored to have played a role in your people's survival. But the road ahead will not be an easy one. Your homeworld lies in ruins, and your military forces have been crippled. We stand ready to assist in the rebuilding efforts, but we must also consider the long-term implications of our newfound alliance." Zareth nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Yes, Commander, I understand. The Xorilian Empire has much to atone for in the eyes of the galaxy. Our arrogance and thirst for conquest have made us many enemies, and we must work tirelessly to earn back the trust we have lost." He turned to Dr. Anderson, his expression earnest. "Doctor, I would like to extend an invitation for you to join our scientific community. Your knowledge and expertise could prove invaluable as we work to rebuild our civilization and forge new advancements in technology." Dr. Anderson's eyes widened in surprise, and she glanced at Shepard, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Imperator, I am deeply honored by your offer. The opportunity to collaborate with the Xorilian scientific community is one I would not take lightly." Zareth smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Then it is settled. You will remain on Sci-Fi, working alongside our brightest minds to ensure a brighter future for both our peoples." Shepard stepped forward, his hand extended. "Imperator, on behalf of the Terran Federation, we accept your offer of a formal alliance. Together, we will rebuild, and together, we will forge a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding." Zareth grasped Shepard's hand, his grip firm. "And so it shall be, Commander. The Xorilian Empire and the Terran Federation will stand as allies, guardians of the galaxy, for generations to come." As the Endeavor prepared to depart, Shepard and Dr. Anderson exchanged a meaningful glance, both of them aware that this was a moment that would be remembered in the annals of history. "I must admit, Commander," Dr. Anderson said, a wry smile playing on her lips, "I never thought I'd see the day when the Xorilian Empire and the Terran Federation would forge an alliance. It's almost surreal." Shepard chuckled, his gaze drifting towards the view screen, where the Xorilian homeworld was slowly receding into the distance. "Yes, Doctor, it is. But sometimes the most improbable partnerships are the ones that have the greatest impact." He turned to her, a hint of pride in his voice. "You've played a vital role in making this alliance a reality. Your diplomatic skills, your scientific expertise, they've been invaluable to the success of this mission." Dr. Anderson felt a flush of warmth rise to her cheeks, and she cleared her throat, suddenly feeling uncharacteristically bashful. "I was merely doing my duty, Commander. But I must say, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this historic moment." Shepard placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression sincere. "And we're grateful to have you, Doctor. The Terran Federation is lucky to have someone of your caliber in its ranks." As the Endeavor streaked away from the Xorilian homeworld, Shepard and Dr. Anderson stood side by side, their gazes fixed on the distant stars. They knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but they were more determined than ever to see this alliance through to its full potential. "So, what do you think the future holds, Commander?" Dr. Anderson asked, her voice tinged with a hint of excitement. Shepard's lips curved into a small, confident smile. "The possibilities are endless, Doctor. With the combined might and resources of the Terran Federation and the Xorilian Empire, there's no limit to what we can achieve. Together, we'll shape the course of galactic history and forge a future of peace, prosperity, and discovery." As the Endeavor hurtled towards its next destination, the crew on board shared a sense of purpose and determination that had never been stronger. They knew that they were part of something greater, a pivotal moment in the history of two civilizations, one that would echo through the ages. And in the days and years to come, the alliance between the Terran Federation and the Xorilian Empire would prove to be a shining beacon of hope, a testament to the power of cooperation, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity.